What are we doing on this episode? How do we even start this episode of the Broken Kid podcast? How do we start this episode? Do we just say take one? Welcome back to this week's episode of the Broken Kid podcast. Today we're going to be talking about the dating pool. Well, guess what? That was the intro. And we are talking about the dating pool because it's not really a pool. Think of it like a big opening where it's full of volcanic ash. Just molten volcanic, and it's just bubbling, whatever the word is. And if you decide to be brave and go to the dating apps, good luck, because it's a good thing that you can download and acquire the app. It's a good thing it's an even better thing you can't acquire all the STDs that the whores have that are on Tinder and Bumble and whatever, even Facebook marketing. Even Facebook has its own dating interface, which is alright. It's alright, but it's not good. And if you want to know what one thing that could make you feel better, go out and talk to people in real life. You don't have to talk to 100 people in a week. You could just keep frequenting to a coffee shop and talk to the girl. And then over the course of maybe like a month or 2 months, you become close and say, hey, would you like to this? And me personally, I've been contemplating what the likelihood of me finding a girlfriend is, one that I want to stick with. Now, there is one who I do have a crush on, who seems like a stellar woman. And if I were ever to pursue that, I would have to, it's very important for me to become more of a man. I want to be the man that woman can need or want and desire, and I think when we're young, we oftentimes don't see, we're not supposed to, we're too young. You don't know until you throw yourself into a pool how to navigate it or how deep it is. And the first time you're going to fail. I'm not going to say most likely, you will fail. That being said, what we will do is this. We will persevere. I will say this too. I try to look at things that are a little bit more positive. And one of the things that I like a lot, and one of my idols, is David Arrquette. And if you know the tragic story of David Arrquette, you know that it was one that love at times was not always present. And I'm just talking more, not just with his family, but he got married to Courtney Cox. He met her on Scream 1. And we all expected it would have been nice if it would have worked out. But David Arrquette could have, some people might agree with the notion that he still isn't, his career hasn't revived. I think the exact opposite, in the sense that I think he's becoming I don't know him, so I don't want to sound like this is a parasocial relationship, but you can come from not the best background and still try to do something good with your life. And there was a lot of he went down a destructive path, like drinking and doing all this stuff, and maybe being destructive within his relationships and the way he treated people. But if you ever, the title of this episode, and it's a little bit more serious and a lot slower in pace, and that's just because I want to spend as much time as I can just trying to illustrate my ideas of how David, you can still, you can't kill him, and that's the name of the documentary. And I'm just thinking about how, we could be born into not the best situation, and sometimes I wonder if the brain plays games on you to make you think your situation is not as advantageous. But I just really do appreciate stories that are a little bit more hopeful. And again, I don't know everything that went on in his private life, all the things that were very pain-inducing, that caused desperation. But he did get remarried, and he has, I believe, 2 more kids aside from the kid that he had with Courtney Cox. But the reason it's called If David Arrquette Can Find Love, Then So Can You, is because we oftentimes look for situations where we can kind of compare ourselves to, and it can be very damaging to compare yourself to the portion that's negative as opposed to the ending portion where it became more of a positive, brighter gradient. And I think that's what the documentary kind of tries to show, and it shows it. I'm still watching it. I watch a lot of his podcast guest appearance, and to anybody who thinks that maybe they're just not worthy, that's very difficult. Yeah, it is. And this is not any professional advice. And maybe the step of taking forward every day to try to get better can feel uncomfortable when you feel like you just destroyed everything yourself, you're at the core of it, and you don't feel too good about your self-esteem. And I just wanted to give a review to what I'm watching and what I've seen so far. And I just wanted to say that if David Arrquette ever sees this, I just want to say thank you, and I appreciate your work with what you did on screen. And we're still not over you dying, so, somewhere in the world of characters that shouldn't have died and died too soon, there is a grave for you that says Dewey Riley. And also next to your sister, Even though some people think you didn't warn her, but, hey, what can we say? Wes Craven's a gangsta, was a gangsta, but his soul lives forever. So I guess we can say is a gangster. And that brings this episode of the Broken Kid podcast to a wrap. Hope you guys have a great day.